Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Milook's Spooky Corner. If my voice sounds gross or I spit up phlegm, that's because I'm recovering from a cold recently, or I don't know what it was, but I've been sick. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about female rage. One of my favorite themes in horror, one of my favorite themes in general, not just because I was born female and I'm a little biased. I think what prompted me to talk about this specifically is the trilogy with Maya West, X, Pearl, and the newest one that hasn't come out yet. What's it called?
You said Maya West? You meant Mia Goth?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm sick. I'm recovering. Mia Goth. Sorry. God damn. The newest one hasn't come out yet. I can't remember the name because I only saw like the little clip. Maxine, yeah.
Max XXine or something?
Yeah, with like 2 X's or something. Very excited for that. But ever since I watched Pearl, haven't seen X yet, which I know you're technically supposed to watch before Pearl. But it's become my favorite movie ever. I knew it was going to be my favorite movie when I saw the trailers for it. I was so excited. I've rewatched it maybe 5 times now. I've made every single person in my life watch it, including my mother. She did not enjoy it. But yeah, so we're going to be talking about the theme of female rage in horror movies. Since the birth of cinema, male violence has provoked less gendered controversy, and colonial westerns and Hollywood war films promoted violence as heroism and a rite of passage into manhood. A few examples being, you know what, all of them, I'm not gonna lie. But in the past, when you would see female rage on the screen, not just in horror films, but just in movies in general, it was always prompted by, or was the result of violence against them by men, rape, or loss of a child. And that was the only time you would really see women getting angry or like kind of going crazy. And back in old cinema, when directors brought up the idea of having like female rage or women as the protagonists and them getting angry and violent, not as a result of like something tragic happening to them, it was very controversial, it's a very big deal, and no one thought it was gonna work out or like the movies would be not popular but make money, which ended up being wrong. There is a lot of issues in horror with sexism and the way women are treated and portrayed on the screen. Even with like iconic tropes as the final girl, even things like that can be controversial. And although the final girl is like a sexist trope, I personally love it. I will defend it with my whole heart. There's things as like the bimbos and like how if you're not like a pure virgin girl, then you're going to die in the movie. If you're promiscuous, you're gonna die. And it's just a lot of themes of just a lot of like societal ideologies that are not the most empowering, not the most feminist. And there's also been studies that show that men just in general prefer violent movies. And when you watch horror films, especially slashers in the past, like old slashers, even newer ones, you'll notice more men do die in these movies, but very, very quickly, sometimes even off screen. It's very quick. It's not prolonged. But when a woman dies, it is sexual almost in a lot of ways, and it's very prolonged, and they're tortured, and like they're screaming, like, and it's way more brutal compared to the way that men die. But I'm kind of going off topic. I've talked about this in a previous episode, I believe. Though there have been many filmic portrayals of toxic masculinity and associated violence, some examples being American Psycho, Clockwork Orange. On-screen male brutality, especially in thrillers or action films, has been widely accepted and fostered the idea that aggression is a male trait. If you look at slashers, it's all guys, like Freddy or Jason or Michael. I don't think there's like an actual girl female slasher, or if there is, it's not popular and it never does as well as the male slashers. And it's not even done in the same way that a typical male slasher would go about it, I guess. In contrast, women are usually stereotyped as virtuous, weak, and passive in horror films, and often sidelined. When women are violent, it is usually only after they are mistreated by men. A dominant strain of female screen violence in the last 30 years has been sexualized, hyperpersonal revenge in response to rape or loss of a child, Dr. Lisa Coulthard said, a professor in film studies. She cites Kill Bill, in 2003, where the bride, Uma Thurman, seeks payback against the band of assassins after she becomes their target, in the process apparently killing her unborn child. As an example, the feminisms, the violence as it aligns with stereotyped notions of female purity, emotionalism, and ties to child rearing. Violent vengeance is deemed appropriate or acceptable because of the level of violence that is precipitated their actions, she says. But this year, in the past couple of years, a bunch of movies have come out, such as The Woman King, Piggy, and the first two parts of T. West and Maya Goth's X trilogy, Pearl and X, are presenting violent women in a different light. While these films don't necessarily condone violence, they portray it in a way that calls gender stereotypes into question and champion female rage, particularly over male aggression. This new wave comes amidst deep concern and anger over the prevalence of male violence against women, with several high-profile cases worldwide. You've probably seen there's been a lot of protests against femicide, which is like murder and genocide specifically targeted towards women. And as women challenge male violence both on screen and in real life, new films and TV series are reflecting this. There is a turn in recognizing female power and women's willingness to fight that has shifted a landscape in recent years, says Professor Coulthard. Across the world, women are paying the price of movies to limit and control female rights and choice and freedoms, and they are rising up to fight back. Specifically talking about Pearl, and I am going to do an episode just talking about the movie Pearl because it's my new favorite movie. It's not this episode though, but we are talking about it. It captures a different kind of female empowerment through violence. Set in 1918, it stars Goth, who co-wrote the script alongside director West, as a titular anti-heroine, a young woman who spies a way out of her stifling existence, nursing her catatonic father under the watchful eye of her demeaning mother. Pearl hankers after stardom, and when a regional revue competition arrives in town, she is willing to put an end to anyone who gets in the way of her ambitions, and we root for her all the way. Elsewhere, female violence on screen is depicted as a means of dispelling still entrenched notions around women's fragility and weakness by portraying them as anything but. The belittling of violent women also goes beyond maltreatment. The production code in Hollywood created strict rules about what could and could not be shown, says Coulthard. In my fight scene research, it is difficult to find a female fight scene before the 1980s, and when we do, their punches are slaps or light touches, and it's not to be taken seriously. Emerging from this pattern of abuse and revenge, the slasher and rape revenge genres went to even more extreme lengths in their torturing of women. Violence at the hands of men rather than women is often given the most screen time. An example being Mayor Zach's I Spit on Your Grave, about a woman taking revenge on a group of men who have raped her, featuring the longest rape scene in film history, totaling 25 minutes. There are very strong opinions on this movie. I like this movie. I love this movie. It's always been a favorite of mine because I just enjoy revenge movies, and I love seeing women get revenge, especially because she goes on to torture and kill her rapists in very disturbing ways that I really enjoy. But I do agree with the fact that, because the main issue people have with this film is, why did they have to show the rape scene, and why was it so long and so extreme? There's many movies where there's implications of rape, or a character will be raped, but it's off screen or it's just implied, and we get the idea, it's very clear to us. But in this movie, they show everything, and it's really, really hard to watch, especially if you're a woman, especially if you may have a history in that area. It can be really hard for someone to watch. So I do agree when people say, like, it didn't need all that, and I agree with that. The term final girl, coined by critic Carol Clover, describes the last woman standing in horror films such as, another favorite of mine, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Scream. Unlike her friends who are punished with death for their sexuality, she is usually virginal and virtuous and emerges the sole survivor of the slasher movie. While her companions are cruelly killed off one by one, she survives, enduring all manner of torments before at long last, and only sometimes being allowed to strike the final blow to the killer. Across genres from cop dramas to action movies, violent female protagonists have also been sexualized for the benefit of male viewers, from rape revenge drama Lipstick, where a glamorous model seeks vengeance, to Tomb Raider, where Angelina Jolie plays the scantily clad video game character Lara Croft. Tellingly, Luke Dawson's review in Men's Magazine Gear of action thriller Transporter insisted, director, writer, producer Luke Benson knows better than most how to make a beautiful woman even more beautiful. Arm her to the teeth. One need only look at the posters for Zach's film and its subsequent remakes in 2010, 2013, and as recent as 2015, in which the protagonist's clothes have been torn so as to nearly entirely expose her body, and to find evidence of how female ferocity has been shaped to suit the tastes of certain male audiences. This has also been an issue in video games as well. Even like, if you see like the clothing options for male characters versus female characters in video games, especially if it's like armor and stuff, guys will have actual armor, and then women will have like boob plates, very shaped boob plates, sometimes with nipple showing too, which is very odd for armor. But same thing goes for movies. The horror of violent women on screen has often been associated with the female body. Think of Carrie, 1976, where a girl's first period is an omen of the telekinetic monster she is soon to become. Or Jennifer's Body, 2009, where a hypersexualized high schooler, Megan Fox, seduces victims before consuming them. Or Teeth, 2007, I have not seen that one, which draws on the myth of the vagina dentata, translated as a vagina with teeth. Such female monsters spring from male fears of the female body as an unknown. These women are also often alienated by their peers as a freak of nature. On film, the steady ascent of the violent and yet relatable female anti-hero has been about broadening definitions of femininity on screen at its crux. The movement has been finding solidarity in multidimensional cultural representations of womanhood, and the progression of violent women on the small screen has potential to further strengthen the solidarity. These new series and films are interesting because they explore a range of female violence, often in combination with a nuanced portrait of female group dynamics, something we rarely see. These female characters are complex, and their violence is part of this complexity. That's what draws the audiences and directors, not the violence specifically, but the emotional, psychological, and character range that these series offer. In conclusion, I really hope we see a lot more horror movies, and not just horror movies, but all types of horror movies, action movies, dramas, comedies, but specifically horror movies, where we have women as a protagonist and they're allowed to be crazy and insane and torture and kill people, and it's not as a result of men, it's just who they are or whatever their goal is, the same way we have seen with men in horror movies, slashers, in general. That's why I think Pearl is the best movie ever. Everyone should go watch it, and I think it's going to become a new hyperfixation. Anyway, that is the end of this episode. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope this episode was spooky enough for you, and I hope you have a very spooky rest of your week. Bye.